Okay, a question here and then Andrew again.
Quick question about corporations. I understand that a lot of the multinational corporations have all the rights of individuals and human beings, so it might be hard to legislate against them. I was really surprised, was it last year, when Warner Brothers flew in and were invited straight to the Beehive and helped, I understand, draft legislation for...
Well, that goes back to the 1880s. There was some court case in America, and where there was some suggestion that a corporation would have the same rights as individuals. In fact, it's not exactly clear what happened there. But that is the that's part of part of that policy. I mean, this is a whole thing about how much control do we have. How much control do we have? I mean, bloody, as I say, Warner Brothers, and then you've got, what else happened recently? You've got corporations telling the government what policies they want. I mean, the casino down Auckland says, oh, we want an exemption so we can build this conference centre, so we can employ a whole lot more people on the minimum wage to make money for our profiteers in Australia, you know.
Meaningful work, more meaningful work, huh?
Well, so I think we let the free market decide the value of the work people do, and that's disgraceful. If you get a chance, look at the New Economics Foundation in England, where they've done some work which tries to actually find the actual value to society of the work that people do. And they took hospital cleaners, for example, and they found that the value to society from the work they do was 10 times more than the actual pay they got for doing the job. And the reverse for the bankers.
Okay, Andrew, did you have another question?
The question about Alliance. I mean, Alliance Party was quite a large popular party at one stage, and Mana Motuhake was the Maori Party within that. And what we've got more or less is like Mana Motuhake still, yeah, but like that is now trying to appeal like to not just Maori but like Pākehā workers as well. Do you think that like people are ready for like Maori leadership in a party that's not actually a Maori party, you know, like following a Maori, and also following on from that, if you can talk about immigration in the Pacific, maybe. Like,
yeah, so I mean that's a really good question. What is the Maori Party? Is it a Maori party? Is it a
Maori
left-wing party?
Yeah, well, it's a Maori-inspired party. It's a Maori-led party, but it's a party for all New Zealanders. And what I've always said to people is, if we get things right for Māori, we get things right for everybody, and that automatically follows. Māori are at the core of the working class. They are the people who are the lowest paid, the most the people who struggle the most.
Haven't you got
within
things
the
around the
working
wrong
class.
way in that sort of logic? In that if you focused on the lowest paid, on the working class, you'd immediately be looking after poor Māori. Because that's one way of
you could say that's the way that other parties have developed, like the Alliance. Yeah. But in those parties, you have Māori are always a tack on the side. Here, Māori are not a tack on the side, and they're not going to be. The issues that affect Māori won't be overlooked like they can easily be overlooked if you have a party like the Alliance. So, and I think the Māori have always suffered from the tyranny of the majority, and Māori nationalism is an important development within Māoridom. Okay. Mana Party supports that development. We do not support the policy of the Maori Party, for example, which says we're happy to have state assets, provided Maori corporations get a share. We're saying that's bull. That's not where it's at.
Because in the past you've been very critical of Maori nationalism as a force in the left. Does that still hold? Or?
No, I don't think I've been critical of Maori nationalism as a force in the left at all. I've been very critical of Maori corporations and the way they operate, you know. And I mean, you know, in the fishing industry anywhere, I've been very critical of that, and I'd continue to be. And we have to see, you know, I mean, Māori are as divided as Pākehā are, and so we've got corporate Māoridom, which is in terms of they'd be very happy to employ anyone, Māori workers, you know, Filipino workers, Pākehā workers. provided they're on the lowest pay to bring in the greatest return.
Okay, and so it was a good question before about the co-leadership thing, because obviously Hone Harawira is a very charismatic, well, very dominant sort of personality. Isn't there some danger of having this one-man band where you got one person? Isn't it sort of just inherently unhealthy having someone controlling the party like that?
It would be inherently unhealthy if that's the way the party develops, and I wouldn't want to be part of a party like that. It is not a personality cult. It's not a one-man band. If mana is going to mean anything, it has to be a movement. And as time goes on, I mean, obviously Hone has been the focus of it because he's You
took it.
Yeah. He's been the centre of the development, and that's inevitable at this stage. But it has to be much more than that.
Because there's a real danger, isn't there, that you get into the ACT situation of relying on a constituency seat or the alliance way
absolutely.
Absolutely. And it's, it could...
Well, mana will go nowhere if it's going to rely on, if it has to rely on one constituency seat and then failure everywhere else. It can't rely on it. What it has to do is it's got to be able to, in the MMP environment, it's got to be able to get more than 5% and sustain it. But in fact, it's got to get to 50%. Mana has to be the government of the country. Otherwise, what are we doing here?
So you're from the optimistic side of the Maori Party, obviously, then.
That's the one.
Okay. So I guess we've got a few minutes left. Just very briefly, you're talking about ideology and what the party is. What about you? Where would you place yourself, say, on the political spectrum, the left-right spectrum? If say 1 is totally left-wing and 10 is totally right-wing, or do these things mean nothing these days? Well,
no, they mean a hell of a lot. I'd put myself firmly well down the left end of the spectrum, and
Maori Party likewise. Is that where?
Well, judge the party by its policies, right? There are people there who judge us by our policies, and I'd say if you look at our economic policies, if you look at all of our policies, they are very, very strong about stopping what we've had for a generation, which is an enormous transfer of wealth from people on low and middle incomes to a very small number of people at the top. So we've got to stop that transfer of wealth that's been going on, and we have to reverse it. We've got to, and I think if you look at those policies, we would be put very firmly at the left end of the spectrum.
Doesn't it really mean just getting rid of capitalism? I mean, as long as you've got this kind of capitalism, isn't it?
This is a movement. When a movement starts out, right, we've got policies that are, as I say, are going to change the whole economic model that New Zealand works under at the moment. So, but those are the first steps, and from then on, there has to be a development and engagement, and there'll be further policy development. And I would hope that mana could provide that impetus for a drive to get rid of the sort of capitalism we have here today.
Okay. Finally, some predictions. Like I said before, I think you're very astute in your political analysis. Hopefully, likewise in your parliamentary career. But
if mana was able to get 3 or 4% of the party vote in this election, I think they'll be hugely successful.
It would, but how likely is that?
Well, I don't know.
Okay. How do you think you'll go against the Maori Party?
I think mana will do really well. I think we'll eclipse the Maori Party.
In terms of the party votes?
I think that's sort of inevitable. I think the Maori Party have got themselves in bed with National and in bed with the corporate Maori elite, and I think that's, they've distanced themselves from the people, and I think they'll suffer as a result.
Okay, what's going to happen with ACT?
With ACT? Oh no, I think ACT will get back in. John Banks will win Epsom, and ACT will be back in. And as they say, if you vote for John Banks, you get 2 dopes in Parliament. So there'll be Don Brash will be there as well.
Okay, and that's probably a good thing, isn't it? Diversity in Parliament. Isn't it good to have sort of the more radical edges of mana at one end, ACT at the other end?
Well, I think the difference between ACT and mana is ACT and their policies are definitely on the way out. The tide is going out on neoliberalism.
Sure.
And mana is stepping forward on the other side. And I think in 3 or 4 years' time, you'll see quite a dramatic shift in the whole parliamentary scene in New Zealand from where we are on the I won't say the hard right, but where Labour and National are on the right, the very right. we'll see that move right back.
Okay, what's going to happen with the Greens?
The Greens, I think, are going to suffer the more they talk about the possibility of going into coalition with National. I think they will bleed votes to Mana and Labour, and I think that's a very disappointing thing. My partner's involved in the Greens, heavily involved, and just tears her hair out sometimes when she hears things like that said.
But nonetheless, there's not a lot of votes to come from Mana and the Maori Party, and isn't there a wealth of votes in that middle? So aren't they doing the smart thing?
No, I think the people who vote for the Green Party are the people who are looking for genuine, real change in New Zealand.
So does that mean that, because there was that poll that came out that was surprised both National and the Greens, I mentioned, about saying that a third of all National voters would think that would be a good idea, or two-thirds, and two-thirds of Green voters thought that would be a good idea.
So maybe there's
two-thirds of Green voters thought,
apparently.
oh my God, well then the last third will just disappear from the Green Party. I was talking to a Green activist yesterday in Auckland who said to me that he said he thought half the Green Party membership would leave immediately if there was an arrangement with National after the election. And I think the ones I know, I think that's right.
Okay, so what about...
So I think Catherine Delahunty's on the right side. I think she's a good woman. I think she's giving the right
she's
message.
feeling isolated in that. No one else seems to want to give the promise to resign or anything.
Oh, well, I think there'll be a...
Okay. Well, so will they hit 10% though in this election? That's the big question with the Greens.
Is this I predict? I think we should be debating policy, which is great. We spend most of our time debating policy. I haven't got a clue what's going to happen.
Okay, what's going to happen with Labour?
Oh, well, what's going to happen with Labour?
Are they going to collapse in this?
Well, they'll go below what would be their normal core constituency, and I would think after that you'll find Labour will have a kind of rebirthing experience, and after Goff's gone, and Goff has to go. I mean, Goff is the person who sat around the cabinet table in the 1980s while they sold off all of our major state assets. He's the person who introduced GST. He's the person who introduced student loans. This is a man out of his time. Okay. He belongs with ACT. So what will happen is Labour will rejuvenate, and they'll bring a new left-wing leader in, and they'll go a much more left-wing party.
So it's not likely we're going to have a Labour government after November 26th, but Mana's the one to watch, you reckon?
Mana's the one to watch,
Okay, thanks, John Minto.
Kia ora.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much.